Hi. What I want to do next is take a look at what labs to do. I recommend no specific ones. I will go through and explain the ones which I prefer, which is not a recommendation, it's just a preference, and explain why I have a preference for them. If you go to the site, you will see that I have other lab analysis and detailed microbiome analysis. I'm a statistician. The more data I have, the more I like it. So let's take a look at other labs. We have a whole bunch of different labs here. Each one of these labs I added in based on users sending me copies of their report. For example, let's take a look at parasitology. We see a grand total of 7 bacteria checked. That's it, it's just 7. Now, is 7 sufficient to determine if there's a problem? My humble opinion, no, it's not. Let's go back and look at the different one. And let's go over and take a look at BioScreen. We have more still, and go back. Now, I eventually got tired of having to constantly hand build different reports to match different third-party reports for data entry. So I ended up creating a genus which shows all of the bacteria genuses in the literature, so you can take any report and go and enter the data. As you see, it's not just 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 genus. It's a lot more. The bottom line is that that every single one of these tests is a very small set of bacteria. Even preferred ones like this one, which is used for chronic fatigue syndrome, has a nice list, but again, it is still a relatively short list compared to all the genuses available. My usual preference is to go over and to use the test which uses a methodology called 16S, which will show frequently 2,000 different genuses, 3,000, 4,000 different species, strains of bacteria. In other words, you get far greater amount of information. The usual one which I prefer to do is Ubiome, which is a matter of following instructions on how to download. They provide the ability to download all of your data and then just upload the file, and everything is handled automatically. The Thrive is supported. American Gut I can support, but I'm waiting for examples. A lot of it, the paying depends on what type of information they give to download, and sometimes the information is, well, let's put it this way. Sometimes it looks like they are trying to prevent giving all the information available to you because they want to keep you on their site exclusively. Ubiome is not so proprietary, partially because it started up as a fund-me, so the original concept was to have all the information available. So hence, usually with Ubiome is the one I would generally suggest for people. Couple of advantages: it's probably the cheapest. With discount coupons and ordering free tests at a time, you can get down in the range of $60 to $70. And if they're having a special, you get down to in the neighborhood of $50 a test, which is rock bottom cheap compared to some of the other ones. Their turnaround time has improved, so usually about 2 weeks, which is acceptable. And so that's basically it. Now, let's take a look at a Ubiome result next to get an understanding of what is actually available in the data they make available to you. When you download the Ubiome JSON package and open up in a text viewer, you will see information such as shown on screen. You will notice that it specifies things which are species, but what is particularly sweet is it uses the standardized numeric identifier for each one of the bacteria. That means that it is far easier to process. It also will show you how many units was detected in the sample and then count normal. Count normal is out of 1,000,000. So they had to multiply your sample by 12, which means that you have 1/12 of 1,000,000 bacteria were detected in your sample. The factor here will vary greatly from sample to sample, and it simply indicates how rich your particular sample was. But again, everything gets normalized to a norm, and we make use of those norm values. There are some people who will discuss the importance of getting a reasonable number for difference between the two of them. At the moment, won't go down that discussion path, but it basically indicates what a good upload looks like, or good data to import from any source, which is using the official taxon numbers, the official name, tax rank, and then normalize out of 1,000,000 how many of this particular bacteria at whatever level it is was done. Now, while you're waiting for tests to come or to be interpreted, you have a couple of things you should consider. One is that there's division between tests ordered by MDs, which are usually those shown on the other lab analysis. Often some of these tests have been out on the market 10 or 15 years. Many MDs or naturopaths are very familiar with it, and they would swear by it because of all the experience. The newer tests using 16S are relatively new, and some of which MDs have problem knowing how to interpret. Often it's because there's too much data. For me, too much data is never a problem. For many MDs it is, especially if they have no university training in how to handle it, the interpretations or what to do. So you have an interesting dilemma. You go with doctor orders tests and you get a limited subset of bacteria, but with a doctor who knows how to interpret those particular tests. Whether or not it would be of sufficient help to you is anybody's guess. Or you end up going over to the latest technology tests and not necessarily having a naturopath or MD who's able to make head or tail of it or give any suggestions from it, who will likely just roll their eyes and say, whatever, and be done with it. So that's one of the dilemmas you have. Okay, so uBiome means you are going to be largely on your own for working with it. If you're lucky, you may find a naturopath or an MD who will. There are a couple who I correspond with. However, none of them are inclined to allow me to advertise their names, so I cannot help with a recommendation. Now, when we are waiting, we could do some actually constructive things. We could go over and take a look at the autoimmune conditions. And what we have here is we have a long list of diseases, all of which has had multiple studies done in the literature showing a microbiome shift. And what happens here is we simply go and we consolidate all the knowledge from all the articles. If you click here, you'll go and you will see a list of the articles which were reviewed. Usually it's limited to 5 per page. If you do a refresh, you may actually get, yes, you do get a different set of 5. So basically it's a subset of the articles which are used, and they may well be 30, 40, or even 60 articles which have been reviewed and data extracted for a particular condition. So we have the citations here, so you know where I'm getting the data from. We can also take a look at something like mood disorder, and it will go and produce a lovely map showing which bacteria have been associated with a mood disorder. And what you need to be aware of is that on the far right, we get down to the species level, bacteria, species, genus, family, etc. That is, vivible bacteria falls under one genus, which falls under a different order, which falls under a different class, etc. So there's a hierarchy of bacteria naming, and it just gives you a view of which groups of bacteria are involved. And as you can see, usually There are a lot of bacteria with a lot of interrelationships. Now, if you go back a little bit more and says, okay, what I have is I have mood disorders, I have irritable bowel syndrome, I have high blood pressure. If I click all of those things, I suddenly will take those abnormalities according to the literature and say, okay, if you happen to have all of the abnormalities according to the literature, here is the suggestions of how you may be able to moderate it. And you just then click suggestions, and it'll come over and give you your suggestions for things you should take. What I have also done is I've added in sources where it's available for getting particular things. Sometimes people have trouble locating where in the world do I get so-and-so. To save you time, to put in there. Other times, if you are in a location, for example, this is showing results from Amazon US. If I say, okay, wait a minute, but I'm in the United Kingdom, change it to United Kingdom, and now it will show links which are United Kingdom. If we cannot find the item on Amazon or other United Kingdom site, then I will show you a flag showing what country it is available on and then what store is there. Right now, Amazon dominates because it was the easiest to implement. I happen to also have worked for Amazon, so I know a whole bunch of magical tricks there. Other things such as Swanson and other supplier custom probiotics are there too, and those ship worldwide. So I attempt to give you an easier way to find a source for it and makes your life a little bit easier in doing it. Now, the suggestions are net suggestions, as in these are the number of items which will, okay, the net suggestions is weighing the mixture of bacteria which you have. In this case, we have 190 shifts. That means some things are going to help one of them and not help something else. So we have 190 things which we have to juggle. So going through those 190, we get 119 saying, take it, take it, take it. We have 44 saying, nope, don't take it. Net result is 66.6. So it means that we probably should take it. Occasionally, we get a real strong positive result. Like, for example, here, we have 47 for taking it, 2 against, net result is 45. In other words, chances are it won't affect most of the stuff, and what it does affect is the stuff you want to have affected. So that gives you a way to do it. You can now go and do fine tuning, as in if you want to change diet style, if you want to use herbs and spices, whatever your preferences are, you just go and modify. For example, I'll get rid of those things and just say, okay, I want herbs, spices, and foods as things I want to use. I click that, and in a few seconds, we see the suggestion. So basically, okay, I should be eating soy and barley with oregano, walnuts, triphala, rosemary, zinc, etc. So depending on how you want to try changing your gut, it will give you suggestions. It will adapt to your preferences and make it easier for you to find the item. Generally, when you go through and try doing things, if you go and click on it, you'll find usually 1 or 2 choices. If you click here for Amazon, it goes over and finds bulk triphala powder. Why bulk? Well, first of all, usually it's organic, which is a big plus. Often supplements are not organic. If you read carefully the supplements level, it often will not have the magic word organic on it. Second thing is often it is cheaper going with organic bulk than it is by individual tablets. The individual tablet may be, half a gram. This is 240 grams, so you have 480 capsules there if you make it into capsules. If on the other hand you go back and you and go over to another one there again cheap. If you go over to individual capsules, you may find that it's anywhere from 2 to 20 times more expensive getting the capsules already made. Learn to make capsules. It will save you a fortune. Returning to the earlier screen, if it's click on the irritable bowel syndrome, it will take over and give you things explicitly just for irritable bowel. But remember, if you have multiple conditions, you have multiple shifts which are likely. So usually it's better to click out all of the particular items which you have and work from there. So that is what you can do pending results, or sorry, pending getting test order done and results. So it will give you a beginning of something which will probably, in all likelihood, help you more than hurt you. Okay, that's it for just quick episodes.